If I can work through a disagreement with someone, I always feel closer to them in the end. I know that the other person is willing to hear me and won't just bolt if there's friction. Mutual respect and good boundaries allow us to hear each other and accept differences. If we are close to someone and are honest with each other about our thoughts, we will sooner or later discover where we differ. Differing is actually growth promoting. It causes us to look within and question. It gives us an opportunity to learn how to express ourselves without hurting people. It reminds us that our way is not the only way of seeing things. Let's look at this topic and check to see if we engage in and conduct ourselves during a disagreement in a way that's effective. The beginning skills I will lay out here are enough to prevent disastrous communication outcomes. Since we unfortunately cannot control anyone else, we must stick to the empowering work of taking charge of ourselves. In my opinion, everyone needs these skills. When a problem arises, the very first thing we need to do is slow way down. We want to be slow to speak so that we can think. I was told in medical school that if someone called me in the night about an emergency, I should ask for the vital signs of the patient. Not only are they important, but it would give me a second to think. The idea here is similar. We do well to think about the vital components of our situation. Here are some starting questions to ask ourselves. Do I have all the facts? Am I already upset about something else? Mixing up more than one issue gets messy. It's best to handle issues as they come up and not save up. Have I taken at least 5 minutes to calmly consider the situation? If we can't find the calm, then give it more time. What do I actually think about the situation, not just how do I feel? And in this particular situation, what is my limit or boundary for what is okay? In other words, if I don't want to be yelled at, I can tell the other person that if that happens, the conversation will be over for the moment and I will go somewhere else. Or if I'm talking to a chronic interrupter, I can tell them that I won't interrupt them, but they need to be respectful and listen to me too. If the person keeps interrupting, I can tell them beforehand that I will hang up or leave the room. These questions need to override a hot-headed, reactive response. We all hear the word reactive, but what is that? A reactive response is one that just pops up in us. It's emotional. If we blurt out an emotional response to our issue, communication will be hindered. If we react emotionally, we have less time to collect our thoughts and be rational. Then, usually, the other person will react back. If we aren't careful, we start to experience emotional flooding. That's an increased heart rate, an elevated blood pressure, sweaty palms, and even shaking. At this point, communication has been virtually stopped. We can't hear the other person in this state, nor can they hear us. This is a physiologic response, and we need to let our bodies calm before trying to express ourselves or listen. Listen is an important word. We get so interested in our own needs and cause that we aren't that interested in listening. But we can decide to go into a communication with a mindset to listen. Are we willing to do that? If we want to get what we want, we must be willing to listen. We want to be heard, so we have to be willing to listen too. As a matter of fact, if we're willing to state our cause calmly and then listen and not go on, we will be off to a great start. Of course, we want to be heard too. But if we can't prioritize listening over expressing or venting, we will be much more likely to get the same. Also, if we really listen, we may get some facts of which we were unaware. These facts might even change our position. All of these things are easy to talk about, but much harder to do. Though they are harder to do, they are definitely not impossible. Watch my video, How to Set Goals and Win Every Time, for a little more detail on this. Sometimes I've had a client tell me they just can't do this or that with respect to some kind of self-control. I asked them if I gave them $1 million to get through the day without doing it, could they? Well, guess what? Then they could. I could. You could. If we remember to ask God for help in behaving well, then we have a powerful partner to help and guide us. When we go to state our case with another person, it's important to stick to the facts and not tell people why they did or didn't do something. We aren't mind readers, and even if we think we know and we are sure that we are right, nobody else will want to hear it. Here is an example that will show you what I'm talking about. We'll break it down into its components. This is the less desirable example. See if you hear every problem with it. What's wrong with you? It's Saturday morning and I'm looking at a full trash can because you're too lazy to take it out on Friday like you said you would. You just don't care. Now, I said that kind of nicely, but I'm going to say both the good example and the poor example in about the same voice, so that part won't enter into it. Of course, if we're nasty, that's going to make it even worse. Well, obviously, when we start with something that's an attack, we are likely to put the other person on defensive. What's wrong with you? What were you thinking? Did you ever consider that? All those are attacks. We'll look at how to improve our approach in a minute. Next, I said, it's Saturday morning and I'm looking at a full trash can. Okay, tone of a voice indicates that this is a complaint, but there is no spelled out request here. Spelled out is good because it's specific and not sarcastic. If somebody says to us, well, what do you want me to do about it? And we say something like, what do you think I want you to do with it? That is sarcastic and sounds like we're calling the other person an idiot. Next, I said, because you're too lazy to take it out on a Friday night. This is a judgment and the assessment may not be correct. Maybe there was another reason. I did a video called Judging Less, Finding More Peace, which describes how easy it is to be wrong in our conclusions about others. So back to this, maybe it was simply forgotten. Maybe something distracted the person, or maybe they need to set up a reminder. Anyway, calling people lazy will not help. So to recap, the whole statement was, what's wrong with you? It's Saturday morning and I'm looking at a full trash can because you are too lazy to take it out on Friday like you said you would. You just don't care. Like you said you would is arguably an okay thing to say because it may be factual, but it still can be said in a more receivable way, which I'll demonstrate in a second. And finally, you just don't care. Definitely an attack with lots of judgment. It won't help anything, and it may be incorrect again. Leaving judgments out about someone's motivation is important. Even if they happen to be correct, it's better to stick to our own thoughts and feelings when approaching another. Again, our goal is to get our message across, so it's good to make our approach with reason and calm. As much as we would like to control a whole interchange, we can only be in charge of our own side of it. So here is another way we could choose to express our issue. We agreed that you would take the trash out on Fridays, but it isn't getting taken out every Friday. I want you to keep our agreement. I put the word every Friday in there in case that person was going to come back and say, well, I took it out last Friday, but they're not consistent. So I was kind of covering my bases there. Here's the statement again. We agreed that you would take the trash out on Fridays, but it isn't getting taken out every Friday. I want you to keep our agreement. This statement is perfect because it's all about the facts and it states clearly what is wanted. People shouldn't have to guess about what we want when they hear our complaint. Here's a message to wives. Men need it spelled out. I naively used to think that if my husband loved me, he would understand what I needed. Well, men aren't girlfriends and they need things spelled out. Just like women want to be heard and understood rather than be presented with somebody else's brilliant solution. Men need straightforward requests. When I got married, my husband would thank me when I was upset with him and told him about it. Thank me. It was weird to be thanked, but he was grateful because we women can be complicated and confusing. He was glad that I was a woman who would clearly lay things out for him and not leave him wondering what I was thinking. Women are good at changing our moods on a dime. Who can possibly keep up with our minds? We have to be merciful. So, man, woman, or child, requesting what we want in a straightforward manner is always best. Isn't it irritating when someone tries to get something from us by attempting to be subtle or by being sarcastic? Just say it. Anything that we want from other people, we have to be willing to give ourselves. So the first step in getting respect is giving respect to ourselves and others. The first step in getting good communication going is doing our side well. The principle of giving what we want from others to get what we want is an important one. I've learned that we don't always get back from the person we gave to. Sometimes God provides a different person to help meet our needs. We can never go wrong by doing right. We can always feel good about doing right, no matter the result. Ultimately, we are only responsible for ourselves. There is a great deal more to talk about regarding communication. We can't just assume that we have truly communicated just because words came out of our mouths. True communication happens in a round-trip meeting of the minds, a calm back and forth seeking understanding. It's a good idea to ask people what they understand us to be saying. Then we can confirm or correct misconceptions. We can also repeat the ideas we think someone shared with us to see if we really got the message. Often, people don't hear what we think we said, and vice versa. This is natural because so many things factor into understanding. That would make a good future video, the many reasons communication isn't simple. None of my videos even attempt to be comprehensive on a topic, but hopefully they are thought-provoking and encouraging. Let's do our best to communicate our concerns with good technique, slowing down responses, sticking to the facts, expressing specific wants, and listening. We can get better and better at this for a lifetime. The payoff is huge, internally and externally. You are a stunning human being, and God wants you to be all that you can be because you are precious, full of potential, and so very loved.